You're listening to Beyond the Bell, Leading with Purpose, a new conversation space where educators and leaders explore what it truly means to lead with purpose, courage, and heart. Join Dr. Nathan Manley and myself, Jim Cummins, as we share the inspiration behind Lifted and how purpose-driven leadership can transform schools and communities. This is Beyond the Bell, Leading with Purpose.
When Jim and I founded Lifted, our goal was to support leaders through sustained coaching, systems thinking, and practical development. Beyond the Bell flows from that same heart, creating space for leaders to reflect, learn, and be encouraged as they lead with purpose. Today's conversation is an important one for Missouri education. We are honored to welcome Dr. Stacy Preis, Interim Commissioner of Education for the Missouri Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. Dr. Preis was appointed Interim Commissioner of Education for Missouri in June. She steps into this role during an important season for Missouri schools, educators, students, families, and communities. She brings broad experience in educational leadership, student achievement initiatives, statewide education policy, workforce development, and partnership building. She previously served at DESE as Deputy Commissioner for the Division of Learning Services and as Assistant Commissioner for the Office of Early and Extended Learning. She also spent 6 years with the Missouri General Assembly and as Executive Director of the Joint Committee of Education, and most recently served as founder and president of Preis Consulting, advising clients across education, workforce development, and philanthropy. Before her statewide leadership work, she began her career as a high school English and journalism teacher in Jefferson City schools. She holds a bachelor's degree in English, a master's in education, and a doctorate in educational policy, all from the University of Missouri, MIZ. In this interim role, Dr. Preis is helping DESE continue to advance important priorities, including classroom learning, targeted school support, real-world pathways, safe and healthy schools, and accountability work. We are grateful to have you with us today, and welcome to Beyond the Bell. Before we get into the work happening across Missouri, would you want to share a little bit about your leadership journey and the experience that has most helped you shape the way you think about education, students, and leadership?
You were so comprehensive in the introduction. I'm thinking there was nothing you left out. No, I would just say I think it's probably obvious from the things that you were saying that this wasn't like a clear progression down a single path. You know, started as a teacher, did some work as a counselor in higher education, made my way to education policy, took a real interest in state level education policy. And that's the area that I have been focused on for the last like 15 years roughly. And so, yes, that's just kind of how I came to be. And I like thinking about that, you know, with students too. Whenever I have taught college classes and they'll ask, like, how did you get into the role that you're in now? I'm like, I wish I could tell you that there was a straight path and these are the steps you need to take, but it's not like that. So I think we have to just make sure that we are giving kids all of the experiences that they need to make good decisions, because they will make decisions and then they will change those decisions and they'll pursue other interests. So as long as we're giving them a good, well-rounded education, I think we're doing a good job preparing them for the future.
You mentioned working with students in the classroom. Obviously, you were a teacher and then at the college level, but as you've gone through those different experiences and viewed leadership, both leading you and then you leading, what are some things that have really shaped your philosophy on leadership and how you lead today?
Gosh. I think about the people who were good examples for me, who I look to and try to think, why is it that I admired that particular boss or supervisor in that role, and think about the qualities that they brought to it. And it was, just really genuine engagement with the people around you and showing respect for the job that anybody is doing, regardless of what it is. Empowering people as you have the opportunity to do that and encouraging them. I mean, part of the reason that I got into my PhD policy program was my current supervisor at the time. I was working for the College of Education at the University of Missouri. And she said, you seem like you really like policy work. And, we had a lot of conversations, and I said, yeah, the state policy is very interesting to me. And, we would talk about the issues of the day. And she said, have you ever thought about our PhD program in education policy? And I said, oh no, I'm done with school. I finished school a long time ago. I'm not going back to school. She's like, no, really. And, think about it. And we had some conversations, and she really sort of saw that was an interest and encouraged me along that path. And so that was really helpful to me. So if I have the opportunity to see potential in other people in that way and sort of guide them to where, they seem to want to go, I hope I can do things like that.
I mean, there was so much there. That if one of the things that you talked about, and just noticing things you saw in other leaders, and reaching out in that respect and those pieces. I was actually talking to my son about this the other day. It's like, it's always been the relationship and seeing that in someone and looking for it. You don't have all the answers, and then just going up and asking them about it. You just find that so many people are willing to pour into you. And so I'd love that. I love that strategy of just noticing and acknowledging and talking to them about it.
Mm.
So as you work through the different jobs, and by the way, I can relate. I started in the CPA profession, so that was a big change leaving that to go to the classroom. But your DESE experience prior, your consulting work, now you're coming back with an opportunity to lead the system, so to speak.
Mhm.
What are you bringing from those various opportunities that you've had into this role? How has that molded you to kind of step in and take over an organization the magnitude of DESE?
Mhm. Well, I mean, I think there are a couple of things on a very practical level. Having worked here before and been in Jefferson City working in the Capitol, I think coming into it with just a knowledge of how things operate and being able to help the staff continue on without a big disruption, and being able to continue their work. But also, it was nice to have that time away doing consulting, because I still had projects that connected me to the agency in one way or another. But to be able to have experienced it, but then step outside and look at it and say, there's a way they could do that better, or that's something I wish I would have done while I was there. And so, fortunately, this board has given me the opportunity to, take their vision of where they want the department to go, but my experiences of sort of seeing where there is the potential for improvement and for things that could be done better, just to put those two things together to move everything forward.
So as you think about this moment, and Missouri, what opportunities or priorities feel most important?
I really would like to think about the way that we approach school improvement. I think the state agency is, often seen as we're the regulators, we're the ones that accredit, we're the ones that, have to tell people when they're not performing up to standard. But really, we have a lot of influence, and there's a lot of expertise in this agency, or expertise we can connect people with. And as we think about school improvement, really focusing on not just, you didn't do this well and here's the score we're going to give you, but let's really dig into where we can help them in specific places. So are there, do they need help with teacher recruitment, retention? Do they need help with curriculum? And not that we can manage all of that from Jefferson City. That just isn't the best way to do that, but we can help connect people to those resources and put good examples in front of them and things like that.
So as I'm gonna dig a little bit about your question about the consulting side, because Nathan and I are kind of seeing that a little bit now with the coaching and seeing the world outside of just our lens of school leaders.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're going in. Can you talk specifically of some of the things, because it might not be just DESE organizationally, it might be for a school leader that's sitting out there thinking, oh, okay, while she was outside, she saw some things that could be more efficient, better. Do
Mhm.
you, are you able to expound on some of those things that you saw?
I mean, some of them are very specific, but I would say
Okay.
in general that when I came back into this, I was thinking, it is so easy when you're here on a day-to-day basis in the leadership role to just get caught up in the moment. And, it feels like it's just you're answering one thing right after another and just sort of reacting to the moment, as opposed to really taking the time to sit down and deliberately think about what it is that we're trying to accomplish. And that's not to say that there aren't going to be fires that have to put out or meetings that we have to go to, but not letting that control the schedule to the extent that you really aren't moving the department forward.
I love that because that fits into a lot of what we talk about sometimes of there's when you're always on fire, it takes some of the joy out of the
Mhm.
job. And so, yeah, love that.
Dr. Priest, so
Yeah.
you talk about Desi and the role, and one of the things that um, I hear you say and talk about, or things that I've read, really comes down to support and that focus on excellence, and what people should see or expect from Desi. Do you have any, like, what does that look like in practice? Because I get that sense from you, just that support that Desi can be.
Mhm. Well, I mean, I think that's one of the things that I want to be working on, while I'm here is we've been talking about a lot of the times our school improvement efforts fell to our office that does accreditation and accountability. And that makes some logical sense, but yet there are so many things around the agency that if we took a more comprehensive look at it and really engaged all of our offices and not just said, well, this school was provisionally accredited, so we're going to let the accreditation division deal with that. That's not, we don't want to be that isolated anymore, because our educator quality office is really top notch, and there are people in there who know what they're doing, and they have access to other experts and resources. And like I said, it's not all going to happen from Jefferson City. It can't possibly, but to the extent that we can help connect people to those resources or guide them towards best practices, support them in what they're doing, I think that's where we want to be. We want to be thinking bigger about school improvement.
I love that thought of just the getting rid of the silos and getting people to collaborate across departments and meet the needs of others. I think that's powerful.
And I would take just an opportunity. Sometimes Desi, if you just, they, whatever, for us in the school business, it's always central office or those people. And nobody ever identifies the individuals. It's Desi or central office. And there are a lot of great people in both. And my experience, and I share this with schools I work with, is my experience with Desi was always excellent. I mean, I thought I was supported, the people I talked to. I mean, as a new superintendent, you're swimming sometimes. And
Mhm.
so Desi is one of the lifelines, and I always got good support. So I'm going to present this question with that background, but with the teachers and the principals and the superintendents, even school boards carrying so much responsibility right now, and almost some negativity from society and legislators. What encouragement as the education leader of the state can you give them? How do you give them hope and inspire them that, hey, you're still in a great profession, you're still doing the work?
Well, I would love to see K-12 education not feel like they have to do it all themselves. I think there's a tendency to want to, isolate and we'll take care of this. We don't need help from the community. Like maybe there's some judgment when there really isn't. And being able to reach out to members of your community, whether that's as far as mental health or public safety or just general support. of what you're doing. I think, and I feel that a lot from the consulting work that I have been doing. One of the big projects I had was connecting civic leaders and business leaders and leaders in philanthropy to all coalesce around supporting the schools in their region. And just, it was really exciting to see how much people outside of education still care about education, that it isn't just inside. So don't be afraid to reach out and take a hold of that, and and to use that, because when people are offering to help, they're not judging, saying, we don't think you can do this yourself, so we're going to help you. It's like a mutual understanding and wanting to do what's right for kids.
I used to struggle with that too. And even when the research is clear that highly effective schools engage their community, and I was so often afraid of like, oh, people are going to judge for this agenda or this, and as it turns out, like they just care and they want to find ways to help for the most part as well. And so finding good, engaging ways where everybody loves kids and they want an opportunity, and there's nothing, it leads to transparency anyway, because there's nothing to hide when we're doing the right work.
Yeah.
And some of the strongest school leaders that I have seen are the ones that really get involved in their communities, and they are part of not just the leadership of the school district, but they're leaders of the community.
Yeah, I love the quote you had there about their offer to help is not judgmental. It's just an offer to help, because I think sometimes, well, they want to help because they want to change it or they don't think we're doing it right. We had Dr. Schmitz on at Lebanon, and he talked a lot about that community engagement piece. And yeah, so yeah, that's if for leaders out there, just understanding that it is a partnership, and how do you engage that? Very encouraging.
And I'm sorry, and to reach, like Dr. Preis is saying, if you don't know how to engage your community, reach out and ask for help. There are strategies out there. That was part of me. Like, what am I supposed to do? There are effective ways to engage. Always ask for help. Ask your network. Someone's doing something well. Don't silo yourself.
So one of the priorities, Desi's name, you talked about learning and improving outcomes for Missouri students. When you think about improving outcomes, what matters most?
I think just making sure that all the right pieces are in place for that to happen, so that, the students have a safe and welcoming environment at school, that they have teachers who are well prepared and highly qualified, that they are using high quality instructional materials, that, all the pieces are aligning in the right way to give those children every opportunity that they can possibly have.
Yeah, one of the things you mentioned there was every child has a classroom teacher that's ready and equipped and those type of things. Do you have what are your thoughts on just the teacher? I guess from my perspective as superintendent, was the pool drying up. I can't say it any different. There are just less teachers out there right now. What does Desi have conversations around that, about the pool, and how do we encourage put in systems? I know schools have grow your own, but ways to get back to a point where we're creating that pipeline of new great teachers.
I'm glad you mentioned Grow Your Own. That was actually a DESE initiative, and that's still, going really strong, and we appreciate that. I don't have the magic answer for how to make teaching the profession that people want to enter, but I think we do have to focus on that some, like not just making people want to teach, but creating environments that they want to teach in, so that there are supportive leaders and supportive communities, supportive parents. I mean, teachers can love teaching and love children, but if everything else that surrounds them is not giving them that support, it's going to be hard to keep them in the profession.
Yeah. Yeah.
We have that discussion a lot, don't we, Nathan?
We do. We do. All right, we're gonna move to one of my absolute favorite topics. Desi has also emphasized growing real world pathways.
Mhm.
You have worked in spaces connected to education, workforce development, and community partnerships. How do you think about preparing students for life beyond graduation and just the importance of those authentic learning opportunities overall?
Well, one of the things that I think about a lot, there are so many good things happening. First of all, I want to talk about that, whether they're CABS programs or the apprenticeships, just, generally getting students connected with all of the opportunities that they have after high school. One of the things that I think about sometimes is just making sure that every child, no matter what part of the state they're in, no matter how big or small their community, that they are still presented with options for their futures. And again, that goes back to, I think, connecting people in the community, that this isn't just something that school needs to figure out for themselves, how to get students ready for life beyond school. That, one of the clients that I had when I was consulting was an organization of business leaders in Kansas City who had come together simply to support that education to post-secondary and workforce pipeline, because they wanted to see, good, strong candidates coming out of our education system and into their businesses. And they were willing to help. They weren't just there to judge, they wanted to help.
I want to just piggyback that a little bit. I did some work for Success Ready Student Network, working with Pam, and was one of the liaisons trying to get some energy down here in Southwest Missouri to try to build an ecosystem similar to what the Kansas City area has. And one of the challenges I ran into with school leaders was we cannot remove focus from the things that get us APR points to get to a authentic learning type of model. And so I don't know if you're positioned yet or this is the appropriate time, but that to me, that was like, oh, yeah, but what's best for students?
I know, like hearing that is a knife to the heart. It kills me.
Yes.
Really want to reframe how we think about school improvement. And we do have the obligation to be the regulators and to accredit school districts and classify them. But to make them think that everything they do has to be built around that, we shouldn't be doing that. It's there as something for people to learn from and acknowledge. And if we have responsibilities we need to take, we'll do that. But to have people like living and dying around their APR scores, I just don't want to see that. So anything that we can do to encourage school improvement without overstressing some experiences over others.
I love that. I love that. And I think the proof is in the pudding, right? We always look for evidence. We look for those things. And you go look at those schools that have that authentic real world learning, experiential discovery type hands-on. They eventually have really good APR as well. Maybe not immediately, but it's because all of a sudden that student is engaged and wants to learn. And so, yeah, appreciate those comments. I know school leaders will appreciate those comments. Nathan, you were gonna say something.
In fairness, this is where my dissertation was written. But I also appreciate, you mentioned in the CAPS and the apprenticeship programs and DESE providing that support for that. But you mentioned even student and teacher wellness and staff or just any wellness right now with people. And the short piece, that the APR and those things, understanding that, I don't know about you, but when I walk into authentic real world learning environments, not only are the students more engaged and they're happy and they're working on all those skills that they need to be workforce ready, I see staff happier. I see them
Mhm.
with a deeper purpose. And I have to think like, well, what does that do to our attendance rates of staff? What does that do to wellness for them? Just the ability to think deeper, to partnership with other people, and just all of those benefits. And so I just think that's somewhat some of the solutions is getting them involved in purposeful learning that they could
Mhm.
look back on and be proud of. And I see more joy sometimes in those environments. I don't know about you.
No, that's a great point, that it's not just a good learning environment for students, it's a good teaching environment for educators.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, you talked about it in the beginning about the teachers and their roles and how they've um, come in and what they're able to do and yeah. So I think all of the work that we do as coaches, as you leading, has to go back to that student experience. And what is that experience and how is that preparing them for the next step? And I will just one last thing before we leave real world learning. What we experienced when we converted one of our elementaries to hands-on is the parent engagement went up.
Hmm.
The kids were going home talking about we did this, we did that, and all of a sudden now you got parents more engaged in the system. And that's another one of those things that helps support schools. When the parents are engaged in what's going on, there's
Mhm.
there's going to be greater support. Yeah.
All right.
Well,
Are we ready to ask about well-being, Doc?
yeah, I love it. That's where I'm at.
Go for it.
So we always ask our guests. Um, we wear a lot of hats. We take on a lot of pressure in leadership positions. I'm sure as you've stepped into this, there's been a little bit of extra weight on those shoulders. One of the things that's our passion is how do we share what leaders do to take care of themselves? Because we know the best leaders are the ones that are well personally.
Mhm.
So what tips can you give those leaders out there for how Dr. Priest takes care of herself so she can be her best version at work?
Well, I think the first thing is just acknowledging how important that is, like you said, and it may, different things are going to be therapeutic for different people. I may like every morning, no matter what, I am up walking my dogs. That's how I start the day. And then sometimes it's just, oh, I can't believe I have to drag myself out of bed. But then it always puts me in such a good frame of mind to start the rest of the day. And so yes, this has been a heavy workload and the pace has certainly picked up, but it feels very positive. I mean, strange people will say, and I'm like, it's actually kind of fun. I'm really enjoying this job, but I think you have to be deliberate in making time for yourself and your family. And, we talk about work-life balance, but we can't just talk about that to students. We have to be, you know, thinking about that for ourselves as well, because it is very easy to just get so caught up in the stress and whatever issue is, weighing on you at the time, and just forcing yourself to step back and take a little bit of time.
So
Very good.
have there been any times in your career, and this is information for others that might be in a different spot, but have there been any times in your career where you noticed that was getting out of balance, that just personal, you were just not wanting to go to work, you were not wanting to go do, and how did you get out of that? In case we've got somebody listening might be there.
Um, I'm sure there have been times like that, and I hope that it was, just an ability to recognize that I was getting burned out, and things were getting a little too out of control. I think if I come home and, I'm thinking about things when I go to bed and it's hard to fall asleep and it's hard to get up in the morning. I mean, those are signs that something is out of balance, right? And I actually, right now I commute from Columbia. So I'm driving, 30 minutes every day down to Jefferson City. And while sometimes it feels like, oh gosh, that's another extra hour out of my day, it really is a time in the morning to sort of mentally prepare. And then at the end of the day to just unwind. Because I used to say when I worked in the Capitol, like once I cross the bridge, I'm done. And I want to be able to leave some of that behind and just be able to focus on, home life and the rest of the evening. Not that we wouldn't deal with something urgent if it came up, not trying to say that, or that things shut off at 5, but just,
Yeah.
you have to take charge of your own well-being. Maybe somebody would step up and say, hey, you need to take a little time for yourself. This is okay. But until you acknowledge it and you're ready to actually do it and not feel like people will be judging you for, taking a little bit of time to yourself or, just recognizing that there has to be more to your life than just going to work every day.
Yeah, that's good. I like that. Taking ownership for your own well-being. I love that. Almost like being your own advocate.
Mm-hmm.
So as we wrap up and close, what gives you hope about the future of Missouri education, or what wisdom or encouragement would you share with leaders who want to serve and students and communities well during this year?
I think recognizing that people really do care. And while sometimes it may feel like there is, negative energy directed at them and things, I don't think it's representative of what I have seen, in the past few years as I've been working outside of the department and Jefferson City, but just recognizing that there are people out there who care about education, who want to help support it. It's parents, it's communities, it's business leaders, and don't hesitate to reach out to people, because you aren't the only ones wanting things to get better or wanting to see good things for kids.
Awesome. Well, Dr. Preis, we thank you for sharing your leadership journey and perspective with us today. Just a reminder that education leader, especially at the state level, is ultimately about people, students, educators, families, communities, the partnerships that we can generate to help serve schools. Your reflection on just your world, your pathway, the real world pathways that you're trying to bring in, the challenges of trying to raise the boat for all with instruction and learning practices. We appreciate that, and I know it'll support leaders that are listening. So to our listeners, we hope today's conversation encourages you to stay grounded in the purpose of the work, to continue serving students well, and to remember that leadership matters deeply during seasons of both challenge and opportunity. If your district is interested in sustained leadership coaching, systems work, financial support, strategic planning, or professional development, Nathan and I would be glad to visit with you about how Lifted can partner in that work. Until next time, be well and keep leading with purpose beyond the bell.